Welcome to the deep dive. So, you wanted the quick version, the essential insights on Malaysia's economy in 2024 from that Kajian report.
That's the plan.
Right, that's what we're here for. Consider this your shortcut. Our mission today is basically to pull out the key stuff, the surprising bits, from the Economy of Malaysia 2024. Kajian report, make it clear, but, without getting bogged down.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the big headline numbers. GDP growth hit 5.1%. That's the best in 12 years.
Pretty remarkable jump.
Yeah. And inflation, low 1.8%. Unemployment also really low, 3.1%. So let's dig into the how and why.
Okay, well, that leap from 3.6% growth in 2023 to 5.1% in 2024 is immediately striking, isn't it?
Definitely.
And while Q4 moderated a tiny bit to 5.0%, the full year's strength, that was really driven by investment, double-digit growth there.
Right. And you could really feel that domestic demand was strong. Households were spending, probably helped by, a decent job market, maybe some government support policies.
Exactly. That played a big part. But it wasn't just consumers. Like I said, investment was very strong. We saw projects getting approved, multi-year initiatives moving forward.
And those big government strategies, NMP, NEET-CR, the semiconductor strategy, do you think they helped?
Oh, absolutely. They sort of provided a roadmap, boosted confidence for investors. And then on top of that, external demand bounced back too.
So exports picked up?
Yep. The global economy did a bit better. There was that tech upcycle everyone talked about. Plus, more tourism coming in, E&E exports, and palm oil did particularly well.
Okay, let's break it down by sector then. Services seemed like the leader.
It really was. Grew 5.4%. Wholesale and retail trade did okay, 4.4%. But look at transportation and storage, up over 10%.
Wow, that's the tourism effect right there.
Definitely linked. And finance and insurance, also solid growth, around 5.3%.
What about manufacturing? Still strong?
Yeah, pretty strong, up 4.2%, mostly driven by those export-focused industries like E&E, again, that was up 7.3%. Petroleum and chemicals, too. Though manufacturing did ease off slightly in the last quarter. Just a bit.
Now construction. That number looked huge.
It was a 17.5% surge. Fastest growth since early 2021. And it was across the board, really.
Any specific areas?
Well, data centers were a big one, especially in Johor and Selangor, up nearly 24%. And residential buildings saw a massive jump, too, over 30%.
Agriculture seemed a bit more steady.
Generally, yes. 3.1% growth for the year, but it actually dipped slightly in Q4, minus 0.5%. That was mainly oil palm slowing down a bit.
Okay.
Even though livestock and, interestingly, rubber production grew quite a bit.
And mining kind of lagged.
Yeah, modest growth overall, just under 1%. It also declined in Q4, mostly due to less crude oil output. Natural gas did rebound a little, though.
Let's switch gears to inflation and jobs. Those low numbers are pretty key.
Very key. Inflation, both headline and core, averaged just 1.8% for 2024. That's a nice drop from 2023.
What brought it down in Q4?
Things like mobile communication costs, RO97 petrol prices fell. Food prices, though, stayed a bit higher.
And the job market? Sounds like it was humming.
Really robust. Unemployment down to 3.1% in December, which is, almost a decade low.
Yeah.
More people working, especially manufacturing, construction, agriculture. And the labor force participation rate was high, over 70%.
Okay, what about the ringgit and sort of the bigger global picture?
Well, overall, in 2024, the ringgit actually strengthened against the U.S. dollar, about 2.7%, and other currencies, too.
Oh, interesting.
But in Q4, it did weaken a bit. That was mainly down to the U.S. dollar getting stronger and some uncertainty around U.S. policy. Bank Negara Malaysia was, actively managing things to keep the market stable.
And globally.
The world economy and trade were stronger than maybe some expected, which helped. But there are always risks, right? Trade policies, geopolitics, those are still out there.
Yeah.
The tech recovery and tourism were definite pluses for Malaysia, a potential drag. Slower growth in some key trading partners.
How are the big institutions seeing things going forward? World Bank, IMF.
Generally positive, actually. Bank Negara Malaysia sees growth continuing this year, around 4.5–5.5%, again, led by domestic demand. The World Bank even bumped up its 2024 forecast for Malaysia and thinks high-income status could be possible maybe by 2028–2030.
That's quite optimistic.
It is. The IMF is also forecasting decent growth, around 4.7% for 2025, but they do point out those downside risks from the global side.
And compared to neighbors in ASEAN, how did Malaysia stack up in 2024?
Pretty competitive. That 5.1% growth put Malaysia ahead of Singapore and Indonesia, though the Philippines and Vietnam saw even faster growth. Thailand's Q4 growth was a bit lower, so Malaysia's definitely holding its own in the region.
Okay, so wrapping it up, the big takeaway seems to be a really strong economic rebound from Malaysia in 2024. Lots of different things driving it, both at home and from the global recovery. Puts the country in a decent spot regionally.
Exactly. It really highlights that interplay, doesn't it, between domestic resilience and those global tides. And, thinking about what the World Bank and IMF said, it makes you wonder, given those ongoing global uncertainties, which sectors do you think hold the most promise or maybe face the biggest challenges for sustaining this momentum? Something to consider.